You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Is it cold in here? Seems a little cold. All right, that's a cold open. Stick around for the damn Wickline show. Man, I like the opening so much better than the old one. That one gets you up and you get pumping, you know? So, hey, everybody, welcome to the damn Wickline show here on The Experience. Here it is. Forgot about that. Here it is, Wednesday, June 29th. It's New Comic Book Day. There are some really good books out on the shelf, so you guys want to check that out. Also, there's the new oversized omnibus hardcover out there for the boys. It collects like the first 30 issues. That's out today. And we are talking about the boys because, well, it's a little strange to me that one of the raunchiest, most over-the-top parodies of all time has made probably the best show on television right now. And don't get me wrong, I loved Kenobi. I think Miss Marvel the consistency that the boys has been at is astounding. You know, you're taking a show about the worst possible take on superheroes, and it's some of the best drama on television. You know, hey, cool gamer. And I'm just impressed every week by the acting and the writing. I mean, you take something like this last episode, which was basically Herogasm. Now, if you're familiar with the comics, Herogasm was its own little miniseries, but it was an event in the comics where the superheroes would come out and tell the world that there's this alien threat that they had to leave the planet to take care of. But all they were doing was lying. It was a kind of a play on some of the big crossover events, you know, like Armageddon and Secret Wars and all this other stuff. And what the heroes were doing is they were lying, and they would go to this private island where a bunch of sex workers would come out as well. And you would have nothing but hedonism and debauchery to the nth degree. And the story took some very weird turns. You had Soldier Boy and, you know, having sex with Homelander in hopes of joining the Seven. You had just every possible kink and disturbing thing you can think of all took place in that, all while the boys were trying to get in there. And I don't remember if they were trying to kill the VIP, the vice president who was there as well, Vic the Veep, who, by the way, in the TV series is Victoria, is the senator. That she's kind of the fill-in for Vic the Veep. So that's kind of an interesting twist. But yeah, it's the Herogasm comic was really over the top. And so when they announced this third season, they were going to do Herogasm. It's like, how the hell are they going to put that on television? There was just over the top sex acts and just, you know, X-rated stuff that is like, how are you going to get actors to do some of that stuff? Well, they took and did their version of Herogasm, which wasn't so much a private island. It was just this private home where a bunch of heroes would get together with a bunch of sex workers, and it tied into the story pretty well, and it seemed like a lot of the heroes were either B grade or lower level or has-beens, that the ones that used to be. And it was something that we find out that Soldier Boy had started with a hero named Liberty. They tell you that in the show. And Liberty was actually a name that Stormfront had used for a while in the 50s or whatever it was. So basically, Soldier Boy had been fooling around with a Nazi, which really goes against Soldier Boy, but, So they were able to work Herogasm in and still put a lot of the over-the-top debauchery in it, yet still kind of do it a little bit off camera. Little things like, they show, I think its name is Icicle or Ice Snap or something, creating a sex toy out of ice, but you don't actually see him actually using it. You just see the reaction to it being used. There's a lot of just after an act or just before an act type stuff. So they give you a lot of it without showing you everything, which I think was really well done. But the fact that they did Herogasm and that it was part of the story really is inconsequential to the story that they were telling. This season is building up with Homelander becoming more and more over the top. I'm thinking at this point we should probably put the spoiler warning up. All right, so we have a couple stories going on at this point. We have Homelander this whole season has been getting worse, grabbing more power. He's more unhinged. The things that used to keep him in check are all gone. Victoria used to help keep him in check. Now he's partnered with her. The video of him on the plane, letting all those people die, that used to keep him in check. He doesn't care about it anymore. If anything, his whole thing about being loved changed because instead of playing like the perfect hero and, oh yeah, you guys are the real heroes, he kind of threw that out at one point and went off saying, no, I'm the hero. I'm the near God thing. And it got him more attention. It got him more love. It got more people backing him. And that gave him a confidence to stretch his control more to the point where he ousts Stan Edgar from Vought and takes over Vought, which might be the start of his downfall, part of what will bring him down. And then, of course, we have the boys are trying to find a weapon to take him out. And that's where they come across Soldier Boy, which really puts the team at odds because Mother's Milk, is specifically traumatized by Soldier Boy. He killed his family. He's the reason that Mother's Milk does what he does. So the fact that Butcher is willing to make a deal with Soldier Boy, the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing, because they think Soldier Boy can take down Homelander, and he sees Homelander as the ultimate evil because of what he did to Becca. Well, Soldier Boy may not be the lesser of the two evils. We don't know yet. He's very much a product of his time. So that may be a problem. It's a good way to put it. He doesn't seem over the top evil, but he doesn't seem be controlled either. He's kind of, it's like he's just a few steps behind Homelander, where Homelander is overtly over the top. Well, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay. Soldier Boy is still a few steps behind. I could see him becoming as bad as Homelander. Now, he's not as powerful. He can't fly. So, hey, Kenneth. But there's this power discharge he can do that he did on the female of the species, Kimiko, and that has left her depowered. So they're thinking that will stop Homelander. And that's what that episode becomes, is Herogasm becomes the setup for the fight between Soldier Boy and Homelander, at least round one. But when it happens, it's not just Soldier Boy. It's Soldier Boy and Butcher and Huey, who are all on Huey and Butcher are both on temporary V. So they're using their powers as well. And that freaks out Homelander. And you end up with a Homelander who's scared, because he literally gets pinned to the ground by the three of them. And Soldier Boy is building the power up to explode. And the last minute, Homelander is able to get away. But the devastation that's left behind is just immense. Like a bunch of people dead, injured, heroes, and sex workers. And it's just, and everybody is splintered at this point. So you've got Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey working as kind of a team. You've got Homelander, who is, the Seven is pretty much fractured as well, but let's stay with the boys at first. Frenchie and Kimiko are off dealing with Nina, having their own completely separate adventure with a depowered Kimiko, and Nina's still out there, but it's getting worse and worse. But they're having to deal with that. And then MM and Starlight, or Annie now, because she gives up the Starlight name, are working together. And they're at odds with Butcher and them. Annie's trying to stop everything and sees Soldier Boy as a killer. And that's how MM looks at him as well. So they're trying to, and Annie goes live. At the end of the episode, Annie goes live and just puts it all out there. So going into the next episode is going to be very interesting, because she's gone on social media and put a video out there from Herogasm with all the dead, all the wounded, talking about Soldier Boy being back, how Vought isn't in control of him, Homelander, all the stuff, all the evil that he's done. And So she put all the truth out there. So now what's the ramification going to be for her? She doesn't have Vought anymore. There's nothing stopping Homelander from going after her. We don't know where Maeve is. Noir did something to her. Homelander did something to her. And she's missing now. I think we get her back next episode, but we're not sure what happened to her. But Homelander is basically alone. The Deep has still got his back, but A-Train ended up killing Blue Hawk and then having a heart attack. So we're not sure if A-Train's even alive now. And Noir, when he found out that Soldier Boy was back and going after Payback, removed his tracking chip and disappeared. Now, what he's doing? No idea. Is he running? Is he trying to get away from Soldier Boy? Or is something else going on? Because we meet the TNT twins, and they say that it was Black Noir who did it, who turned him over to the Russians. And they're like, well, they say, well, Noir wouldn't do anything without Vought telling him to. So did Vought sell him out? Did Stan Edgar sell him out? I mean, that's something we're still figuring out. So there's all this going on coming off of this last episode. But all the acting in this episode, which is just so spot on. I mean, sometimes these comic book stories lines seem very similar to soap operas. Yeah, it does. It does, JD. The interesting thing is, though, this is very, very far from what happened in the comics. I mean, the whole series took a major turn early on, but they're just pulling moments from the comics. This series is completely on its own now. So, 1 second. None of this. The Soldier Boy we're getting is this Captain America analog. That, the man out of time, but he's got a little bit extra power. And you've got basically Superman versus Captain America as a big showdown we've got going here. And Jensen Ackles playing the part is so good because you're not sure if he's a bad guy like Homelander or if he was just always treated like a god, so he's not reeled in any, with absolute power comes out, is he corrupt? And I don't know if he is. He seemed to have genuinely loved Crimson Countess and was hurt by the betrayal. I mean, he says he spent all those years waiting for her and the team to come rescue him. Yeah, that's the quote I was trying to remember. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Is he corrupt? Or to what level is he corrupt? And that explosive power, is that something new? Did he have that before? Because it seems to trigger uncontrollably when he's around Russian music and Russian themed things. But he had a hard time getting it to go when he tried to do it himself. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. But Ackles is playing the character where you kind of like him, he was betrayed by his team and he wants revenge. And on any other show, he'd be the outright bad guy, going out and just killing off his former teammates. But this show is so over the top, and everybody wants everybody dead, that it's hard to judge him for that. You know, he got betrayed by his team and he wants revenge. How different is that from Butcher wanting revenge for Becca, or Huey wanting revenge for Robin and to protect Annie? You know, and Annie wants now revenge for Supersonic and all this other stuff. I mean, it's just, revenge is like the key in this thing. So is Soldier Boy that bad? And there's some moments that he plays that is just, you know, he sees a father carrying a baby in a carrier and stuff, and he's like, men do that now? What the hell happened? And he talks about Bill Cosby. You know, Bill Cosby's America's dad. Well, was that Nicaragua? Yeah, I guess that would have been around the same time as the Cosby Show. So, yeah, when Bill Cosby was at the height of his popularity, you know, and then he makes a comment about, but Bill makes some strong drinks. You get the idea that, you know, he's just a total man at a time. But can you blame him for that, you know? Because he's a man of his time. So they're making it so he's not as much of a villain as you think he would be in probably any other show, any other universe. You know, if you would have dropped that same character in the Marvel universe, he would have been the absolute bad guy. But here, it's like you kind of start rooting for him, you know? So, all right, we are at the point for our first commercial, so we'll take that real quick, and we'll come back and we'll talk more about the boys. So be right back.
Get the inside scoop on everything happening at the Experience every week. Join our mailing list by scanning the QR code at the bottom of the screen and then watching your email inbox.
This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there. Hi there. Hello there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Kumpa. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mush Mosh.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in the minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody! Welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Space Cadet.
Hey!
What's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody! Welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectibles.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the damn Wickline show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box? What's in the Box?
Comic culture and sales.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the damn Wickline show. I forgot about the chicken adobo joke. Thank you, JD. All right, guys. We are talking about The Boys, but I want you remember to stick around after the damn Wickline show because Comics Collectibles with Rex and John will be coming up. And they've got some really cool books today. I know they've got a Three Jokers book signed by Jeff Johns. They've got a book by the great Tom DeFalco. And they have some very cool looking commission cover art, which, sketch covers done by Ken Hazer, including one absolutely gorgeous She-Hulk cover. I think it's on a Hulk, but he drew the She-Hulk. So, and that Silver Surfer one. Yeah, both of those look very cool. So you guys want to stick around for that. There's some really good collectibles coming up with Rex and John, and guest AR or AR Comics. So stick around for that. And also, I should point out, this is my pick of the week right now. It's Champions #1. And this is the John Cassidy exclusive cover that they have over at Dynamic Forces. I got that. I also got the black and white version of it, which is very cool. And they come with like certificate of authenticity, those things. But yeah, this is, I picked this one because Miss Marvel is on there, along with Amadeus Cho, Cyclops, Nova, Viv, Vision, and Miles Morales. So if you are looking to pick up a very cool copy of the Champions and want a different cover, the John Cassidy cover, get it from Dynamic Forces. That's my pick of the week. All right. And getting back into The Boys. I find a lot of the changes they've made. The link for that book is in the chat right now. I find a lot of the changes they've made very interesting. I know The Boys pretty well. Last year before, I did an adaptation of the first graphic novel into prose, and that's available on Amazon. So I took the first graphic novel and made it a prose book. And it's definitely different than the comic series. I mean, it's based on the comic series. It's definitely different from the TV show because the first story is all about the group Teenage Kicks and how the boys decide to show their comeback by going after and taking out one of the members of the team, making them quit. And this was a lot of fun to do. But there were parts of it that it's like, okay, I've got to describe this particular sex scene. And where Derek Robertson could just draw a picture and that's all it needs, I have to come up with the words to describe it. So that was a very interesting challenge. But it's a fun read, and it's also get to dive into Huey's past and Annie's past a little more. So there's stuff in the book that I write that isn't even in the comics. And it was all approved by Garth. But it's a very different story. So it fascinates me, the changes they've made, whether it's how the team lineup is to, Annie's first experience with the Seven, in the TV show, she gets basically sexually assaulted by the Deep. In the comic, it's like the team does it, other than Maeve. I think, and Jack from Jupiter isn't part of it either. And we don't even have Jack from Jupiter in the TV show. And I think that's interesting because Jack from Jupiter, there are two characters that haven't popped up yet, Jack from Jupiter and Tech Knight. And the reason I think it's interesting those two characters haven't popped up, because they're two characters that aren't based on V, on the compound V. Jack from Jupiter is an alien, literally from Jupiter. Tech Knight is an Iron Man type. kind of a Batman Iron Man mix. So he doesn't have superpowers. He's got a super suit. Where every character we see in this show is based on Compound V. So I hadn't actually thought about that until recently. Those are the characters we're not getting. We're not getting the characters that aren't based on Compound V. And I'm wondering if that was a conscious decision, because Tech Knight's character is part of Payback. And this season is all about the Payback team. So they drop Tech Knight, they add the TNT twins, and Stormfront was supposed to be in Payback, but instead they make it Noir. And they also add Mindwave, I think his name is. It's another. We haven't dealt with him in modern day yet, but it's got Gunpowder and Crimson Countess and stuff. So we're dealing with Payback now. But again, there's a little changes from the group in the comics. The characters of the Seven. We don't have Jack from Jupiter. Lamplighter is very different. What happened to Lamplighter is very different. The whole bringing people back from the dead angle, being able to resurrect some of these heroes, even though they come back, they're not exactly all there sometimes. But, and the whole Teenage Kick storyline has just disappeared, which was the first story arc. The only thing we got from that is the character of Popclaw, who's in season 1 as A-Train's girlfriend. She's from Teenage Kick, and I think Gunpowder is also part of Teenage Kick as well as Payback. Or no, I don't think he's been Payback in the comics. He's part of Teenage Kicks. But all the other members aren't there, Blarney Cock, who Huey kills and then comes back from the dead, isn't there. And that's kind of an interesting character, because I don't want to get too much into what happens, but there's a hamster involved, for a gerbil. And Huey ends up adopting the hamster. And it gets all weird, but it's Blarney's hamster. And when he comes back from the dead, that's what he goes to find. Well, we get a hamster 2 episodes ago. And he's a superpowered hamster. And then it's gone. So what the hell happened to the hamster? And how ironic would it be if that's what kills Homelander? Just thought about that. There's a way the hamster could kill it. Jesus. Yep, and this is a show that would actually do that. But hamster aside, it's funny. There's the omnibuses coming out, the oversized omnibuses, like Ant-Man and Thanos. Yes, that's what I was thinking with the hamster. But there's the oversized omnibuses that have come out. There's a Humble Bundle going on right now to get a lot of the boys comics, and I think JG can throw some links. The Humble Bundle, and then there's the Kickstarter for the oversized omnibuses that also has some individual reprint special cover issues. But you could buy all those books and read them and get a completely different story than what we're seeing on TV. And it fascinates me because it's just as good. It may even be better, but it's different. I think the comics, if you're a comic fan, then it's definitely a raunchy, over-the-top parody of superhero comics. The TV show is a much more centered, kind of a parody, but it's for maybe more a general audience. They don't tone down a lot. They tone down some, but they still do a lot of the over-the-top stuff. But they're telling a more accessible story, you know, where a lot of the boys' comic stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it. What they did, what Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson and eventually Russ Braun did, is brilliant, you know. But they basically they tore the hell out of the comic industry, you know. It's like this team's the Justice League, that team's the Avengers. Oh, here's the X-Men team. Here's this, here's that, a parody of that, parody of this. Where, you know, and if you've been reading those books, there's a lot of inside jokes and things that are really cool. But when you go to the TV show, there is some inside stuff that goes along with, you know, the DC movies and the MCU, but overall it's still accessible without that knowledge. You could watch this show and not have to know that Homelander is an analog for Superman, or that Maeve is Wonder Woman and Noir is Batman, and, you know, Aquaman is the Deep, A-Train is the Flash. You don't need to know that. Doesn't matter. There's an extra layer there if you get it, but you don't need to know that. In the comics, it is kind of necessary because it plays off of that. It assumes that you've read all those books, where this doesn't assume you've seen all the shows. You know, I mean, you see Soldier Boy and you're an MCU fan, you go, well, Captain Frickin' America. Or actually more of a cross between Captain America and Winter Soldier. You know? But you don't get that with... Yeah, it's not as important with the show to have that background. And I think that's something they've done really well. And they've also taken the show... Like I said, they pull inspiration. Like, oh, we'll fit in that Herogasm stuff here. Or we'll fit in this character here, even though this is not where he is in the comics. And they do a really good job of it. You know, normally producer Kyle, loves when he thinks if you're going to do an adaptation, you have to do it as the same. You know, if you're going to do Civil War, then it needs to be Civil War. If you're going to do, you know, any of the things that you're adapting have to be that story. Don't just borrow the name. You know, if you're going to do Thunderbolts, and you've got to do the Thunderbolts story from the comics, and you should bring in the writers from Thunderbolts. You know, you should bring in Kurt Busiek to oversee the story, so you're doing that story. And they're not doing that here, and I think that's better, because I don't know if a straight adaptation of the books and stuff would work in this medium, because it is really over the top, and, you know, but they still have fun with it. You know, in the comics, there's something about sex toys having to do with Little Nina. Now, they didn't use it in the same way, but they still had a moment using sex toys as weapons with Kimiko, which was just awesome. So they took the moment and did it a different way, which, again, I thought was really well done. And this season has really been that way. And it might be that the way I watched it is making me a little more impressed, because I watched the first season when it came out. And then when season 2 came out, I started watching. I think I watched one episode and then put it aside and didn't come back to it until about a month before the new season dropped. And then I went through and I watched the whole thing. I binged it. So that was all fresh in my mind going into this season. And then going into this season, we've been getting such a good story. And Homelander is just going so over the top to, and that's another performance. Anthony Starr as Homelander is absolutely brilliant because he's not a mustache twirling villain. There are moments you actually sympathize with him. You go, wait, he wants love. He has been, brought up this way. There's mention in this last episode of the bad room and how when he's talking to himself in the mirror, the one in the mirror said, well, I got you out of there. I got you out of the bad room. I took care of this. And so, and how, there's still a bit of humanity in you and we need to cut that out like a cancer. You see how screwed up he was. That he was misraised, abused, and made into what he is. And that's to portray that on a show, to be able to make people sympathetic for your character occasionally when you are so over the top bad. That's really well done. That's really good acting. And I worry a little bit for the actor that he doesn't get typecast because what he's playing is so over the top and so unique that I could see him only getting offered roles like that. I see it online. People casting him in other shows, but it's always villain roles. Somebody was talking about casting him as Eobard Thawne. There are people who are unironic fans of Homelander, the character, and that scares the crap out of me. Yeah, JD, that would be. That would be. So, definitely. All right, guys, we need to take our second commercial break, and then we'll come back and finish up our conversation about the boys right after this.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Comic Collectibles is here for you every Wednesday with AR Comics for two very important reasons. To sell you rare, one-of-a-kind comics that you'll love, and to confuse AR with old man talk. You see, Rex and John are, how should I put this, ancient as the roots of the mountains. So every week, Rex and John fill in AR in yet another area of pop culture that he missed because he's too young, just didn't have the time, or just really doesn't care about. It's a real public service they provide. Come buy some super rare and unique comics, while old men explain long-dead sci-fi shows to a younger man making that confused puppy face. Every Wednesday from 6 to 8 Eastern with Rex, John, and AR Comics. Comic Collectibles on The Experience. Comic culture and sales.
Are you a comic creator? Are you a publisher? Do you make a comic book product? Do you own a retail store? Do you do something I haven't thought of? Who are you and what do you do? Let us know by advertising on The Experience and invite our viewers to patronize your product. Message the EXP on social media or email us the_EXP@yahoo.com for more details.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We are talking about The Boys. Yes, we're talking about The Boys, and we have 2 episodes left. And I'm not sure where the hell this is going to go. Because like I said, everything is splintered. The 7 is in tatters. The Boys are in tatters. We've got multiple storylines to finish up. Annie is just quit being Starlight. Quit being Stardust. That would be very different because, you know, that's a wrestler. Cody Rhodes. So, yeah, we're building to a crescendo. We're building up to Homelander is gone so over the top. And I said this a couple weeks ago that I was disappointed that they announced season 4 already. Because I like the idea of going into the finale not knowing if the show is going to continue. Because if you don't know the show is going to continue or not, then there's that possibility that everything could be destroyed by the end. Butcher, Huey, Soldier Boy, Homelander, they could all be dead by the end of it. But now we know there's a 4th season. You can't kill everybody. You have to somehow get to a new status quo. And with Homelander's trajectory of getting worse and worse and worse, they could pull a Fantastic Beast on us, as in just not do anymore. I don't get the reference, JD. Come on and tell me.
I was just thinking they could kill everybody, destroy the Earth or something, and then next season could be the superheroes from the 50s or something.
Oh, okay. That would be interesting. But see, I don't think they'd want to do that because I think they'd want to keep the same. I mean, you don't get rid of Carl Urban or Anthony Starr. I mean, or Jensen. I don't think at the end of the season you can have both Soldier Boy and Homelander alive. I think you kind of have to pay off the 2 of them. Now, you could have a wounded, battered Homelander out there scheming to return, greatly diminished, but still a threat. I mean, that's one way they could do it. But it just seems like everything is so shattered. What do you have at the beginning of another season? You know, they have to establish some kind of status quo to start a new season. And with Homelander being the big bad and him getting so bad this season, how do you ramp him up more next season? So you kind of have to slam him back down or kill him off and create a new threat for the new season. Does Soldier Boy become the threat for the new season? I mean, again, it would be one thing if we didn't know there was going to be another season, because then all we have to think about is, well, how's this going to end? What's the big thing going to be? But with the fact that they've got all this stuff going on, you really don't know. So how are they going to reestablish a status quo? You know, I mean, even in the comics, they would go off and take care of other things for a while, and the Homelander threat would kind of calm down a bit. But they've ramped it up so much other than him being just about killed and everybody thinking he's dead and trying to go back to a normal life, I can't see how we get back to a status quo that, another season makes sense. And there's only so much you can keep ramping up until eventually it becomes too much. So I am fascinated to see how this season's going to end, but also where we're going to be left going into a new season.
How about this? I said a brain lightning. I don't know what you call it. Everybody's about to have that final battle where it's going to be decided once and for all, and then alien invasion from Jupiter.
That would be interesting.
And suddenly now they all got to work together.
That would be interesting. But that would totally change the show.
True. That's why they don't hire me for TV writing, I guess.
Well, I don't know. It could be a good move. It would definitely change things up. But, yeah, I mean, Annie and Huey are on the outs, and their love story has been one of the driving things of this series. Butcher wanting revenge on Homelander, revenge on Soldier Boy, Frenchie's concern with Kamiko, her abilities, I mean, it just, hell, one of the biggest changes between the comics and the TV show is in the comics, the boys have powers. Now they get the temporary versions, but it took 3 seasons. In there, Butcher got Compound V and gave it to them, so they all got powers, and they're all kind of similar strength-based powers. So I like the fact they gave Huey a different type of power, but I don't know. Like I said, they've really kind of put themselves in a corner, and I'm fascinated to see how they're going to get out of it. You've been ramping this up, and with this last battle, it's going to get worse. It's going to keep going up. So I don't know. I do not know how they're going to pull this off. And I'm fascinated. And it's not like when we watch these other shows where it seems like they have 10 tons of things to solve. This is really simple. Bringing down Homelander or not bringing down Homelander. But it's what the world is going to look like around however it ends, so that we know there's another season, Do they end it with, Homelander triumphant? Do we end it with Homelander completely defeated? Homelander dead? And now Soldier Boy takes over and Jensen Ackles is the new bad guy? Or do we drop back to the 1950s? A lot of questions. It's a fascinating show because they can do anything they want. I mean, before the show started, Amazon Prime didn't even have a standards and practice division. They had to create one after they started filming The Boys. So they kind of get to do what they want, and it'll be interesting to see how they wrap it up, And 10 days we'll know. I mean, we got a new episode Friday, 2 days from now. And then a week after that, so 9 days, we'll know how the season ends. But your guess is as good as mine as how they're going to pull it together and what it's going to look like going into season 4. So, and who's still going to be alive in season 4. And there's nothing There's nothing in the comics in all 750 or 790 pages of comics that adds to the people and the boys that, you know, they're totally off script now. So, you know, maybe they go after different teams. They come up with different, you know, they shut down the 7, but other teams pop up. There's that stuff, but we will see. So the boys, loving the series, great acting, great storytelling. Honestly, don't know how they're going to get to a season 4. And we're going to find out in 9 days total. So, all right. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about Miss Marvel tomorrow, a show that I didn't expect to like as much as I do, or that the cultural stuff is a lot of what I'm really enjoying about the show. So come back tomorrow. We'll talk Miss Marvel, try to catch up on it, and we'll see you then. Stick around for Rex, John, and AR, and some great comic collectibles, and stick around for the rest of the night. I will see you tomorrow. Good night.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP.